All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee Blackarachnia, another figure from our Worlds Collide 4-pack here that includes Blackarachnia and Bumblebee, of course, and Nemesis Primal and Fangry. So here's our second figure from that pack. Here's what they all look like together in this mode. Yeah, basically, what this color scheme is of Blackarachnia. This is not like a different character. This is still Blackarachnia. Basically, what this color scheme is meant to homage is the original toy colors of the original Beast Wars Blackarachnia. Because if you're familiar with that figure, basically, like Blackarachnia was originally just a repaint of Tarantulas, and it had a little bit more of a color scheme like this with your kind of like bright greens and purples and stuff like that. And then obviously when they did the Beast Wars show, she didn't really look anything like that in the show itself. Like they made her spider mode look much more like an actual, Black Widow spider rather than like the tarantula shape that she had in the toy. And then obviously her robot mode looked a lot different. They gave her a lot more femininity as compared to tarantulas. So then when they, were making new figures of her for Kingdom, they obviously wanted to homage the beloved show character. So the figure is much more heavily based on, like, this figure is much more heavily based on how she looked in the show. Like the body style of an actual, Black Widow spider, and then, the body that she had in the show, and these different colors. So then what this figure was is basically taking the new body style, but giving her the old colors, and that's a really neat idea. Part of me wishes that, like, I'm sure eventually they're going to make a new Tarantulas figure, and maybe they should have just waited to do this homage until they had that figure, because then they could just, repaint that Tarantulas so it would have the same body type as the original original Beast Wars Blackarachnia figure as well. But, it still makes sense. It's kind of like a neat sort of, amalgamation of those two designs of like the physical body of the show character, but the colors of the toy. Right off the bat, the one thing that's a little bit of a departure from that original toy is the original toy does still have the red marks here on the Black Widow spider as opposed to the purple marks. But, because they didn't use red paint anywhere else on this toy, I guess they just decided to do the purple because they use purple paint elsewhere. Makes sense. It's slightly a bummer, but like not too big a deal. But yeah, it's a pretty good looking spider mode overall. Obviously, it's not at all accurate to the real life colors of a real Black Widow spider, but that's the whole point of the homage here. What's kind of neat is, if you get this pack and you don't really care about this figure and the homage of the original toy colors, and you want this figure to look more like she did in the show, you can swap out the legs here. I saw, a post of someone doing that online, of taking the spider legs and putting it on this figure, because in the show, she really did have more brown legs, at least in her robot mode design. Whereas for the Kingdom figure, they decided to give her black legs because that's more accurate to a real life Black Widow spider. Personally, I'm kind of all for that decision. I like the black legs better, but it is, if you want the brown legs to match more of the show model, then you can definitely do that. She also did have purple feet in the show instead of the black feet, so you can use the purple feet from this figure. Of course, in the show, it was much more of a muted purple, so it wouldn't match quite as much, but that is an option that you have. So this figure, the one thing about this figure, all four of them feel like a little bit looser than like their original molds, and this is the one that I really feel like suffers the most for it, like quality control wise, because this figure, oh boy, like I really did not realize, like, how many little tolerance things of this figure could change to just make it like just change so slightly to make it such a like a floppy mess or something, because like this figure is pretty solid. It stays well tabbed together in both modes and everything like that, and the articulation doesn't suffer for anything. And this figure only has like slightly looser joints in a number of places, and it makes the whole thing a lot more unstable. For one, the hands do not tab very well into the feet back here. With this one, they kind of like clipped into place. Like you can even hear the clipping sound there. Whereas this one, they're just kind of hovering over those heel sections, barely tabbing in at all. These tabs don't really stay together very well. There's some other loose parts in robot mode that I'll get to. One of the robot mode thighs is actually so tight that it prevents this panel from sitting like totally flush in spider mode, which kind of contributes to these pieces not sitting as flush either. It's got a number of problems that make this thing kind of a pain to deal with, especially, in comparison to the original Blackarachnia, which I feel like is a fairly solid figure overall. She comes with the same weapon that the original Kingdom Blackarachnia came with, although obviously in different colors. And this also has a quality control problem, sort of, because the one of these little slots here where it's supposed to tab in, you can kind of see it there. It's got a piece of like flash on the inside of there, like, extra plastic that prevents that tab from going in at all. Now, at some point, I'll probably just take an X-Acto knife to kind of like whittle that down, but it kind of sucks that, I have to do that right out of the box. And then additionally, because this piece is now painted, like on the original mold of this figure, this was just like a solid, like goldish colored plastic. These tabs are also painted, which means they're a lot thicker. So when you try to tab them in, it's like starting to cause little stress marks here. And this is already such a thin piece that like, I don't feel totally comfortable like really forcing that tab in there because it's probably going to snap it at some point. So like this is notionally supposed to store the same way in spider mode that it did on the original Blackarachnia figure, but you might want to take like a little knife or something to whittle down those tabs or some sandpaper or something just to get some of that paint off so it fits in there a little bit more happily. And then also, I don't know if this is a problem with just my figure or every copy of it, but also do something to get rid of the extra plastic in there. Otherwise, this just totally cannot tab in without damaging the figure. Kind of a bummer, but again, like for me, I'm just going to put this weapon off to the side anyway because it doesn't store at all in robot mode. If you really don't want to do anything to the figure and you still want to store it, you could just like tab it into the bottom of one of her feet or something like that, which, looks worse, but it's a thing that you could do. But anyway, that's my complaints so far about this figure not really holding together. All right, we showed her off with all the other figures in the pack, and we showed her off with the original Blackarachnia. So let's get on to transformation. So first thing you want to do is just unhook the claws here from the bottom of the feet and fold them out like that. Just leave them like that for now. The legs here you want to kind of bring out to the side and then unfold. Just bring out like that for right now, and then you can take this whole waist section and kind of rotate it forward, and then rotate her legs down to sit correctly, and then mess with the knee spikes there. This whole section with the spider mode legs and the robot mode arms, it slides out like that. Then it rotates around. You want to separate these sections here. They kind of like rotate out to the side on those mushroom pegs, and then compresses back in. Then this back panel here, you want to bring that down, bring her chest plate up onto the spider head, bring this whole section around, and it will clip into place right there. Just clip it all the way, and you can rotate her robot mode head around, and then take this panel, fold it up like that, and push it onto the back there, and then just do do what you will with the arms. Rotate it so the claws are forward, and then what I generally do is I kind of sweep the spider mode legs like back like that. You can rotate them around so they're more like, show accurate with the legs pointed forward, but I think that looks a little bit goofy, so I just kind of just put them to the back like that. And there you have Blackarachnia in her robot mode. Let me just adjust the camera here. And yeah, I mean, she sports her new wacky color scheme pretty well. Another fun thing about this figure is it does have a new head sculpt. Way back when we were like seeing leaks of the new Kingdom figures that were coming out in Wave 1, we saw that like Blackarachnia had this other alternative head sculpt that was like, on the sprue or whatever. Oh, also these panels can compress in just a little bit to slightly change the shape of the legs. That's another step of transformation. And we didn't really see anything from that head sculpt for a while. It was like a head sculpt that was kind of based on the Blackarachnia and Tarantulas original Beast Wars mode. They all had these like mutant masks, and that's what theirs kind of looked like. And yeah, now we've got that for the Blackarachnia figure. Sorry, kind of. There we go. Getting it to focus there. I don't know why it's not focusing when it's close into the camera here. But yeah, no, it's a good head sculpt. Come on, man. Focus. Focus. There we go. And yeah, it's sort of it's interesting because like with the original Tarantulas and Blackarachnia mold, really like there was the one head sculpt which was kind of what Blackarachnia's head was designed after, and then the show model for Tarantulas elected to use the mutant head. It was either that or the other way around. I'm pretty sure Tarantulas's must have been the mutant version, just because it looks a lot more like creepy and alien. But so it was sort of like the Blackarachnia's show head model was based off of the regular head, and Tarantulas' show model was based off of the mutant head. So they both had the same head sculpt, but this one looks a little bit more like what the toy looked like. Whereas, obviously the show model took some liberties with like the way that the head was shaped and giving her a mouth and stuff like that. So that's like basically where the design of the original, show model Blackarachnia head came from. But now this one is a little bit more accurate to sort of what the toy looked like. And yeah, it looks really nice on her. They've taken a few liberties with the color palette here. It's not 100% accurate to the original toy, but one that I really like is that they've decided to come on, man. I don't know why my autofocus is having problems here, but they the original toy had like basically like a black chest that had like orange kind of peeking through it, and they've decided to kind of redesign that as like as sort of like a leopard print pattern, which is kind of cool. It's just a funky pattern that I think works well on the figure here. She's got some like striping detail on the side here, which is pretty much probably just like homaging like sculpted detail or something on the original toy rather than the actual color palette. But yeah, no, it's pretty good overall. The one biggest problem that I have with this figure is like getting back into that tolerances and things being looser, is that the joint that her head is connected to is like super floppy loose. Like it always is like flopping back and forth like bobblehead style, and it's probably possible to tighten up if you just like go back into this joint and like put a little bit of like super glue on there and like work it back and forth, or like floor polish or nail polish or whatever tightening agent you usually use. But it again kind of sucks that it's that floppy loose right out of the box. Again, I don't know if that's a problem with just mine or with every version of this mold, but or this release of this mold, but it is kind of a bummer. She can hold her weapon. Like I said before, unfortunately, they're just like the original Kingdom Blackarachnia. There's no storage for this weapon whatsoever in robot mode, which kind of sucks. All they would have really had to do is like put an extra slot or tab or something on the back, and they didn't, but whatever. Another thing that I didn't really mention in spider mode is she has a kind of like neat, like silvery blue dry brush effect on her spider mode. So it still looks black, but it's like it's got kind of a nice sheen to it. It's kind of neat. But yeah, articulation wise, her head is on a ball joint and obviously can fold up and down like that. The shoulders are just on the same kind of like universal joint here where they can fold in and out like that and then rotate around. It's got two bicep swivels basically, just so you can kind of reorient like where the spider legs are. But those are two independent joints that can rotate. 90 degrees of bend at the elbow there. All of her spider legs, I didn't mention this in the spider mode, but these are all on ball joints at the knee here. For hip articulation, she can only go forward about so far because like this piece doesn't really move out of the way or anything like that, so it can only really like kick forward that much, but it can go back that far, out all the way to the side. She's got a thigh swivel, which on this leg is fine. On this leg, it's like stupid tight. Like it barely moves at all, and I feel like if I really force it too much, it might just like shear off the mushroom peg, which is kind of a bummer, and that's what contributes to like some of those panels not really lining up in her spider mode. But it's not too big of a deal in robot mode itself, but it is kind of scary, that joint. Her knee bend can, go all the way in like that because of transformation. And then her feet have pretty good articulation. They can go forward, back slightly, and then they've got a tilt from side to side. So pretty good foot articulation overall. Again, it's the same Kingdom Blackarachnia figure, which has pretty good articulation. And yeah, I mean, it's fairly just the same figure, just with a new head sculpt and a new paint job. And I like this homage a lot because I like that sort of like toy homage kind of thing where like they have the original toy, they redesign it for the cartoon to make it look better, and then later they take the design from the cartoon and then like going back and homage the original look of the toy. It's just like a sort of neat back and forth that I think is kind of cool. And it would have been something that I think would have been cool to see like with a future Tarantulas mold to make Blackarachnia, but it works well enough with her as well. Here she is again with Fangry and Optimus, or Nemesis Primal and Bumblebee, the other figures that she comes with in this pack. And yeah, they don't have a ton of business being together, but there they all are together, looking good. And then, of course, here she is again with the original Kingdom Blackarachnia. And yeah, it's a nice homage there to have like the toy colors and the cartoon colors. I kind of see her as like a alternate universe version of Blackarachnia or something like that. I don't know. I feel like, especially since she comes in a pack with that Nemesis Primal or whatever, it sort of feels like Blackarachnia if she had never gone to the Maximals or something like that. Like if she had just, continued on with the Predacons and had a slightly different personality or something like that. I don't know, just a neat idea, something to justify having her in the collection and having her be like a different character or something like that. But yeah, it's a pretty good figure overall. With this one, I would say that like in terms of like the quality control, this is the figure out of the four of them that really suffers the most. Looks fantastic, but like a lot of the joints just do not feel as solid as that original Blackarachnia figure. Oh, and here for another size comparison, here she is with Sideswipe, just to show them all off with him because it's this pretty standard mold at this point. But yeah, like I was saying, like some of the like most of the joints feel okay. In robot mode, really the only thing that's bothersome is that. And in spider mode, like it makes it more of a pain to transform her and get her from mode to mode, but like once you're there, it holds together relatively okay. It's just, kind of a bummer. And then like with the tabs there with the gun, again, that doesn't bother me so much just because like I'm putting the gun to the side anyway because it doesn't store in robot mode at all. But like that is something to consider if you're going to store the weapon underneath the spider mode, is that you might want to modify these slots or these tabs or both in a little bit so that tabs in there a little bit better. But yeah, no, I appreciate the new head sculpt. I appreciate the color scheme. And yeah, there's not really a ton else to say about it. It's a nice figure. It looks really nice. It does, what it's meant to do. And yeah, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And we're going to continue on with these, Buzzworthy Bumblebee Worlds Collide packs. Obviously, just the two of them left. But yeah, here we have Buzzworthy Bumblebee Worlds Collide Blackarachnia.